Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tanisha Wood. So have you ever had a moment where you're sitting in a room and maybe there's other people in the room and you're sort of in your own world and you look back and you're looking at the other people in the room and you think, wow. And the wow is, I'm really proud to be in this room. Or maybe I'm surprised I'm in this room. But anyway, it's a feeling of joy. So I had one such moment very recently that I need to share with you guys. So rewind back to like 2012, 2011, when I was dating my ex. And he had this really awesome idea for an app, and he'd always talked about it and toiled with it, but wasn't really doing it because he had a full-time job. So then fast forward to years later, last year, we're catching up and he says, hey, I'm finally working on that app. I left my job. So like, that's totally what I'm doing full time now. And I'm like, wow, that is amazing, because I remember when you were first talking about that idea. So like, that's totally dope. A couple months later, he says, well, I'd love for you to work on a piece of the app. The app is basically a platform for experts to teach their skills and help people reach their goals. So there's like various challenges on there. Some of them are physical fitness and sports related things. And the one that he asked me to do was a dating challenge. And I was like, yeah, I would definitely love to do that. I've always thought about doing a class around dating because I end up telling a lot of my clients the same things. And I'm like, I would love to bring that to the masses. But anyhow, I'll talk more about that part later. But the part I really want to talk about is how proud I was to be in that room. And here's why. So I went back to New York in November and we were filming for like 2-3 days. And Chris also happened to be in New York because he had meetings there too. So the last day that we were filming, Chris came by. And so him and my ex have met before. So they were just, catching up, guy stuff, whatever. And I was sitting there looking at them and I just thought, this is all some grown man stuff. How dope is it that I have a boyfriend that is so confident in who he is that he doesn't think twice about something like this? When I first told him about it, that my ex had asked me to be a part of it, he was like, that's amazing. That's dope. Like, you should totally do it. Like, no hesitation. And I'm like, that's a man right there. And also, how dope is it that my ex is just a cool dude and not weird about it? Like, I just really felt like everybody in that moment was so mature and I loved it. And then my little brother came by, and my ex has this like amazing camera and computer equipment. And he was like, oh my God, is that like a 900 gigahertz Mac 2.4? And I was like, I don't know what you all are talking about. I obviously just made all that up. I don't know what kind of Mac or camera it was, but needless to say, my little brother was enamored with it. And I was really just sitting there looking at all of them and thinking like how cool it was and how cool it was when life comes full circle. So I guess the moral of that story is, don't throw people away. Like, just because you are no longer with somebody in a romantic capacity, it doesn't mean that they don't have any value that they can add or bring to your life. I mean, yes, certainly there are some exes that you just need to let go and leave forever, ever, ever. But that doesn't go for everybody. There are certainly people who you can respect as people and as friends and leave the part of the relationship that didn't work where it was. So I was pretty proud of myself in that moment. Also, I want to tell you guys a little bit more about the challenge. So it's going to be a 5-week challenge, and it's starting on February 9th. And I'm going to really break down a lot of the roadblocks that we've been encountering in online dating and help you build a great profile that displays your strengths and actually attracts people that you want. So please, let's do this together. You can join the challenge by going to swipedright.buzzer.life And if you enter code DRL49, you can get the course for $49.99. And that's only for the first 20 people. So let's do it. I'm back here on a lovely afternoon in Puerto Rico. Today I have Fatima with me.
Hello.
Hi, Fatima. How are you?
I'm okay. And you?
Good. So what brought you to Puerto Rico?
I run a social enterprise called Pensar Africa, which actually means Think Africa. It's basically bringing everything African forward.
Yeah.
Everything beautiful African forward. So I actually concentrate on producing clothes and jewelry, everything handmade. And it just made sense, Puerto Rico, because for me, I'm an American, naturalized American citizen now, so immigrant story, and Puerto Rico is the closest place to Africa for me in these parts of the world.
The reason that I wanted you to come on today was because the other day I was scrolling through my Instagram feed, and you had a post about your mom and the fact that she passed away by suicide, and she'd been in a very abusive relationship prior to that. And it made me think about where you are today, and obviously doing very well. You've lived all over the world. And I thought, wow, I wonder how she overcame all of that. You know what I'm saying? I wonder how this affects her now when she's dating, you know? So I guess I really want to talk about today, how did that story and that past affect you now when you're dating and in relationships, particularly with the lack of a relationship that you've had with your father? Like, how do these things come into play? And also, how are you able to thrive past that, where sometimes people don't? Sometimes people aren't able to move past that and move into the next level of their life.
Well, overcoming, I think for children who come from trauma, who don't have parents at a very young age, you can't overcome that because you have a void that's always there. You know, I lost my mother at age of 2. I didn't really know the circumstances. She was 29, I was 2. And that was like one of the first relationships that I lost, because a mother is a mother. Like, you hear this. It was very hard for me to grasp that unconditional love, that when people say a mother's love is unconditional, and I'm like, that's a lot of shit. Like, you know, but you don't understand as a child that, you know, there's trauma, there are things that we're going through. So overcoming, it's difficult. I don't know if people who have gone through similar traumas as me to overcome that. And your past is very important. You have to acknowledge your past and understand your past to move forward, and you make decisions. You move forward positively or you move forward negatively. We all have trauma, but how we deal with it is a different thing.
Right.
And it's affected my relationships, because my mother killed herself when she was 29. She was just married for like 3 years. She had 2 kids. My brother was 3. She was married in 1975, and she died in 1979. In 1976, she had a child, which was my older brother. In 1977, she had me. And 1978, 1979, she kills herself.
So you were raised by family, like your aunts, uncles, grandparents, etc. What did they tell you about the circumstances behind her death, or, you know, her relationship with your father?
I grew up in Tanzania, East Africa, and I'm a mixed heritage kid. East Africa is very much like the Indians from India, Tanzanians. Like, it's a cultural mixing kind of thing. So my mother came from a very traditional, her father was Indian, her mother came from Zanzibar, so they were a very conservative Muslim traditional family. She was the eldest of 13 kids. They came from a poor family. I remember they had all 13 kids, mother, father. They used to live in a 2-bedroom house. Some married, some adults, you know. They were all living in this condensed, it's like sardine. I mean, they did it. I don't know how they did it, but the relationships between mothers and sisters and brothers, I don't think it was ideal, because you're, 14, 15 people in a 2-bedroom house,
right.
And she was the eldest, and my father came from a mixed family. His father was Congolese, Pashtun, like Baluchi. It's between Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan. There's a Pashtun people.
What's the name of the country?
Well, they're Baluchi Pashtun. I don't know if you've seen I think it was National Geographic picture of in the 60s, 70s of a woman with piercing eye.
With the very blue eyes.
Those are the people. They're in Pakistan, Afghanistan area.
Got it.
And he was Congolese from Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. And his mother was Indian Ngoni, Indian Tanzanian. So he came from a mixed family, a little prominent, like they didn't have a lot of money, but they were okay. And my mom came from a poor family. So at that time it was arranged marriage. So
their marriage was arranged, your parents.
So my father actually saw my mother at an aunt's house. So he asked my grandmother to go to her parents' house and send a proposal. And they said yes.
Did your mother have a choice in whether she wanted that marriage or not?
I don't know. Again, who is going to answer these questions for me?
Right.
My father doesn't. So I don't know if it's guilt or he's just a narcissist, oblivious person. Because most of my life, he was never there. It was sympathy. People who used to look at me and, this is why, another reason, I haven't talked much about it, that I'm not in Tanzania. Because growing up, people would look at me in pity and sympathy, or poor her, because I guess they knew my story. Like, my father was fighting a war in Congo, in eastern Congo, in Zaire, and he was the head of the rebel force there. And I didn't know much about him. He's never been part of my life. So
At all?
I have helped him. I've sent him money. But he's not even bought me a bottle of water.
Wow. Now, why have you helped him?
I don't know. It was one of those things. It's like, he is your father. He is your father. I went to Congo looking for him. I took a bus. I had gone to search for him.
How old were you at that point?
I was just about to turn, in 2007 I went. So
you're an adult?
Yeah, I was an adult, 30, I think, close to that. 2000. So yeah,
did you find him?
Yeah, I did find him. That's another episode. But relationships. So for me, it's like going into different relationships. I was raised as a traditional Muslim Indian girl in Africa. I didn't look Indian. I have really curly hair. I consider myself light, but according to the Indians with the class system and all that, there was a taint in me, and not a lot of my cousins look like they have straight hair, and so it was very prominent. And so I fought a lot of things. The first thing I fought, and I taught myself a lot of things. Mm-hmm. One thing I taught myself is to be adaptable. Like a chameleon. Wherever you are is your house, then that's where your roof is. So what they say is what you have to do. Mm. I learned that from a very young age. It's like, and it affected me. I was very much, you become very insecure. And
because you're always trying to make sure that you are fitting in right. You're not saying or doing the wrong thing. Like you don't want to stand out.
Yeah. And for me, it was like being mixed. Being in other people's houses, it's just like I felt like I was robbing the children of those houses love and affection and things from their parents that is supposed to be directed directly between that relationship, and those parents and those children have to share that love with me and that wealth with me.
So you mean like as you were growing up and sort of going between different family members' homes?
And being told this is not your home and all that. So for me, it was like, again, being told this is not your home, your husband's home is your home. That is a very traditional thing because arranged marriage. When you get married, your husband's home is your home.
So you're no longer considered then a part of your family once you're married out into your husband's family.
Yeah.
Got it. So when did you first start dating?
Well, I could remember my very first boyfriend, physical and like actual emotions. I think I was 17, 18, yeah. And it was Indian guy from, we have a mosque that we go to, a community center, and we belong to the same community. We were together for a while. I lost my virginity to him. I had no idea what sex was. Because as a Muslim woman, you're not told these things. And just the relationship, because I didn't see positive male-female relationships. So for me, it was like, my body it feels good in my body kind of thing, and that's it. It wasn't emotional per se. He's the only ex that I keep in touch with. He's the only one that I talk to. It's so funny because I had no idea what I was doing. I don't think he had any idea what he was doing, but he was an escape from me. After I finished high school, we worked in the same company almost. So we were working together. He would drop me off from work. We would go have coffee, and we had sex in his car. I broke my virginity in a Volkswagen, 1984 Volkswagen or something like that, on the beach. It's like, but yeah.
Well, the beach makes it romantic,
right? I'm like, I didn't feel anything, but at least I can hear the waves.
That being your first male relationship, was it hard for you?
I didn't open up to him. Mm-hmm. I was very cold, and I've tried over the years. I remember I was going through some really tough time with my ex-husband. I was married. My grandmother was lovely. She was a lovely woman. But she told me in Swahili, like, mi nilikuwa nachunga mbuzi na babu yako alikuwa ananipiga. Like, I used to herd goats, and your grandfather used to beat me, but I was still there with him, And I'm like...
so her advice was stick
it
through
out. Yeah,
whatever is happening.
Yeah, just stick it through. And I'm like, I'm at that time really at crossroads saying that, what the hell? Why? I married at a very young age. I married at 23.
Why did you marry him? Were you in love? And you had opened up?
Out of all my partners that I've had 3 ones that I've introduced to my family. I've had a lot of lovers, but I've partners, and I've always been in monogamous relationships. And out of the 3 partners that I've introduced to the world and my family, I think he really loved me. My ex-husband genuinely loved me. But I think it was me. I was lost. I was sexually abused when I was a kid as well. So having that relationship, just seeing sometimes trauma, like people who've gone through rape and trauma and all that. Sometimes just seeing things like cum, it brings certain things back. You try to forget it, but you can't forget things. You can't forget the past. I mean, we talk about religious people. Why are you not forgetting the death of Jesus?
Right. So you think a lot of your traumas came up in this relationship, but not necessarily because of things he was doing or things that were outside the norm.
I was reacting because I didn't really know. I was like, why is this happening to me? Why are good things happening to me? And then I married outside of my religion and my caste and all that. So I'm like, that religious guilt is like maybe because I didn't follow the religion and the path, or I'm being punished for this. So you live with this guilt, like,
Wait, so you thought you were being punished because of good things that were happening?
Well, yeah, it's like, it's like good things were happening, and I'm like, this is about to end.
Got it. So you thought everything was temporary, and you were sort of counting down the days.
Relationships are temporary, because I had a mother. I only had 2 years with her, and she disappeared. Mm-hmm. Do you think was temporary? I had a father who was never there. Whenever he was, it was temporary. I was raised by my grandmother, and then at the age of 13, she disappeared to Canada. So that was temporary. And then I had my brother, my blood, the only thing that connects me to my father and my mother. At the age of 16, he went to Canada, so that was temporary. So everything that was happening to me seemed like had an expiration date.
Got it.
Every relationship that I've had seemed like it had an expiration date, and it always seemed like maybe it was something that I was doing, that it would be, But it's just life. People come in and go out. I mean, it wasn't my grandmother's fault that she got to migrate to Canada. It made her life better out of Africa to go to Canada.
Do you think that with your ex-husband, because you thought, all good relationships have an expiration date, instead of waiting for it, you expedited the process?
I could have worked on it. Again, it's like, I don't want to call him out or anything like that, but I think we had an expiration date, and I wasn't sexually happy as well. I don't think he was happy. I was very depressed. I went through depression, It's because it's like, is this what I'm supposed to do? And remember, it's a cultural shock. Like, I came from a very traditional family and being raised in Africa and all that. And then at the age of 19 or 20, I moved to America. I meet my ex-husband in school. We get married. I moved to America in 98. And in 2001, I'm married to him.
Where was he from, and like what religious background was he?
He was born in Canada. His family had migrated from Guyana, South America.
Got it.
With an Indian background as well. So, again, colorism came into place. I used to be told to stay out of the sun because I'm going to get darker, So all those little things. And when you are black, you're part black, you're like, why are they saying so many bad things about being this, you know? You're only saying good things about being Indian and being Arab and all that. But I have the best skin. I don't get burnt. I just get golden, I'm like, what is their problem, So culturally, I thought it would be closer with my ex-husband because he's Indian immigrant families, growing up and in Guyana, and then he was born in Canada, but still around that because I was raised by Indians. I thought it would probably match, but it didn't match. Like it was this thing in my head that, the Disney, that forever, ever after romantic, the realities of relationships, because I never was in a house. There was only one couple or two couple that I saw my whole life together, husband and wife, and they were not happy. The other couples were my parents. My mother's dead. My dad's brother, my dad had an older brother, his wife. They weren't together. So everyone that I saw around me, the ones that were together were not happy, and the ones that were not together were dead.
Wow. So you had really no example of what a positive partnership looks like in that way.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever seek therapy?
I did.
During the marriage?
I've been to therapy. It's helped me understand who I am. I've been single for a very long time. My last relationship was last year, and that only lasted 4 months. But I had been single for almost 7 years before I started to actually be in a coexist with someone.
Right.
Before, after my long relationship, that was with an Australian. When I was here in San Juan, I was single for a while. I had lovers. I had a lot of lovers. I had a good time, But again, they're like short-term lived. It's not emotionally fulfilling. It's just a sexual
for the time
thing
being.
For the time being. I'm frustrated, and when you are touched, when your body is touched, there is a different sense of security that you get about yourself. It's like someone is touching me. So human touch is important as well. So, but being in a relationship, I've been very guarded. I don't want to hurt.
It's interesting when you talk about being touched. It's like you sort of get that fulfillment in the moment, but it's temporary, And so just like you were saying before about the relationship sort of having this temporary status in your head, it really achieves that. Like, it's here, it's for a moment, and I know you'll be gone and I'll be gone or whatever. And I don't have to...
And you're not going to give a shit.
Right, and I don't have to go deeper than that.
I've seen that as a pattern in all the relationships that I've had. And my ex-husband, I'm really hoping he's really happy and has children, because that was another thing, wasn't really something I wanted to do, is have children.
Why not?
I'm 42, and now I'm thinking, okay, maybe I have 3 years now, maybe I could do IVF. I do have a few men lined up if I do decide to do that.
Do you want children now?
I don't know. I don't really see a reason to have one. We are already overpopulated. Climate change is real.
Right.
And I think I'm too free now. I'm like, I can't even be in a relationship now. I can't be at one place. Even when I'm in a relationship, I need that person to understand that I can't be in one place.
Are you talking physically? Like
physically,
I can't,
or, yeah,
I need to travel often. I need to be all over the
travel,
place.
but it's like for us to grow, we can't settle just in one spot or something like that. I've noticed that as well. I live somewhere 5 years, 7 years, 10 years maximum, and then I move.
I'm the same way. I get very bored.
So I need my partner to understand that it's very easy for me to just give up everything and start something, fresh somewhere else.
For those 7 years that you were single, was that intentional? Like, were you meeting people that maybe wanted to get in a relationship and you said, no?
I never pursued. I was very, it's because I guess I didn't want it. So I didn't really consider how other person would feel kind of thing. Like, I'm like, we can just be physically together. We don't have to be together. Like, this is the moment we are happy. We just take the happiness and let's go kind of thing, I mean, it gets lonely. Nobody can say that it doesn't get lonely. It does get lonely.
Right.
But are you better off lonely in your own company or lonely in someone else's company?
True. Now, would you be willing to put the work in if you were to meet somebody that you wanted, in understanding that it's going to have its highs, it's going to have its lows? Some days you're not going to want to be around that person. Some days you are going to want to get up and just flee and go elsewhere. With that being said, do you think that you can put the work in for the right person? Or it's just not even it's not your desire at all?
I think so, but I'm going to say something that happened to me last year. I was in a relationship with a guy in San Juan. I met him here. Again, immigrant like me, not from here, has a business here. And we were friends. We were friends for 9-10 months before we started dating or being serious. And he was, since the day we met, he asking me out and like trying. And he was a nice guy because I felt like, he's from almost the same place as me. Mm-hmm. He's doing almost the same thing as me. He's here, open up a business, and we kind of come from the same background because he was raised as a Muslim and all that. Well, that should have been because where he comes from, the masculinity and machista is very much so. And I saw it in his upbringing. His mother and his sister were here as well. And it was, but I opened myself up to that. I went full in.
What was the thing that was different about him that gave you the ability to do that when you hadn't for so long? Like, gave you that ability to fully open up?
I let a lot of people into my life, but I don't let people into my life. You can come into my life, but getting into my heart and 100% is I'm very, very guarded, and I'm very aware of it. And I did let my guard down for 3 men in my life, so it didn't work out. For 3 men, I let my guard down. And this is men that I have been physical with, and I wanted to spend my time. Nobody gets married to think about divorce.
Right.
That's not what I wanted. It's like nobody gets into a relationship for 7 years, going 7 years and saying, that was my second relationship. I was with my ex-husband. We were married for 5, but together for almost 8. And then after him, I was single for a year, and then I met someone, and I was with him for almost 7 years. So
you are somewhat of a serial monogamous. It seems like when you do get into something, you stay in it for a really long time.
Yeah, and it wasn't like I didn't fuck around. I didn't do any of that stuff, But the thing is, like, from the age of 20 to the age of 35, I was in a relationship back to back.
Which I think are key years for getting to know oneself on a deeper level. And I think
sexuality, your likes, your dislikes, your growing up as an individual, which is very Western thing,
right?
Because my life was not my life where I grew up. My life was belonged to everyone else who was around me. In the Western society, it's an individualism, So, and I was in the West. I was in Dallas, Texas, So it was like it was the time for me to build as an individual, but I was partnered up. And then from 35 to now, well, say 41, before I met the toxic ex that I had here. Yeah, it was just me for 6.5 years, is traveling the world. I became okay being alone in my own company.
Mm-hmm.
I pushed myself, traveled to places, didn't speak a word of that, like a language of that place, didn't know a lot of people, and the people that I knew didn't speak the same language as me, and spent 3 months there and challenged myself with sometimes with no water, no electricity. It's like people would say, why would you leave Africa? Like, but I had to get out of the comfort level of what I had, you know. Right. It's like I had to be alone with myself, uncomfortable with myself, with nowhere familiar to run to.
So how were those moments for you, especially when you were starting out? So your first couple months, you know, on the road and traveling by yourself in a new and distant place where you didn't know the culture or the language. Like, how was that for you? And do you feel like maybe it was the first time you were actually seeing yourself for you?
Well, there are a lot of things that I started to understand, and always having that, I'm going to meet someone, I'm going to have a good time. And, you know, it's like that eat, pray, love bullshit.
I did an eat, pray, love trip, and it was the best thing I ever did.
I did that too. At one point I was playing with 3 men, but you know, no, but it was one of those things. It's like I had to get out of my comfort zone. I had to say, I'm okay with myself. I'll be okay. Even I have nothing, even I'm not going to be able to sleep with the roof, but I'll be okay. You know, it's like that worry that you have to have air conditioning, that worry that, you know, you have to have I have a watch that costs $3,000. Why the fuck did I buy that? I don't know. But now it's like you
need less and less of the material things because you realize like
it's not important.
Right.
And my wake-up call was when I was 29, you know. I divorced my husband before I turned 29, and that was the year that my mother killed her. That was her age.
Interesting.
So I actually left my ex before I turned 29 because I was like, we were unhappy. Mm-hmm. He was unhappy, and it wasn't because of him, it was because of me. You know, and it wasn't fair. He went and did things, and we had our personal issues and all that. But I think a lot of that had to do with me not understanding who I am. You know, what I like, what I dislike. Moving from family to family, I was like, oh, this is it. I'm married now, and this is going to be my home, and this is going to be my forever. But that's not what it was. Nobody was there to tell me. My grandmother just told me, if he hits you, you just deal with it. I'm like,
you duck.
I'm like, this is what happened to my mother. They expected her to just deal with it. This is my father's mother. If your husband beats you, just deal with it. And I'm like, this is why she's dead. I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. My husband's not beating me like my father probably beat my mother or abused me as much, but I'm unhappy, which makes him unhappy. And I was looking and searching for my happiness in him. He doesn't hold that.
That is the key. That is, I think, the biggest mistake that a lot of women make, and I think it's the lie that we're told about marriage, is it's almost like the pinnacle of your life, right? So it's like you're building. But when you get married, that will be it. You have conquered everything. It. You are there. And then in your mind, that translates into complete happiness. Well, now that I'm married, I've reached heaven. It's going to be all fairy tales and romance and happiness. And it's a sad lie that we tell women.
It's not a bed of roses.
It is not.
It is a bed of roses with a lot of fucking thorns. It's like, ouch. No, and you know, like I said, it gets lonely, and I do make mistakes of letting some men into my life that I just need them for certain things, you know. I've never needed a man for money, so that's one thing that, you know, it's something I'm very proud about. You know, as kids, you steal money from grandmother's purse to go buy stuff. I stole money from my grandmother, and I got whooped. By not family members, but by strangers. There was a guest living in the house who actually thought it was okay to beat me, and because I didn't have protectors, I didn't have a mother and a father, I was a teenager, and I stole money, and I went to buy film to take photos. Mm-hmm. And I got caught, and I got beat up by abuse like literally whipped on the middle of the street by a stranger who was just a guest in the house. And I had aunts and uncles over there who did not say a word. So that's when I knew that you are on your own.
Wow. And in a lot of ways, that mentality has served you. Mm-hmm. Like it has served you to show up in any place in the world and make your own way and not feel like I have to depend on somebody else to do that.
So that was another thing is like again, I let my guard down with my toxic ex from last year.
When you say you let your guard down, are you meaning like you let him in for real?
Yeah, I let him in. Like I let him in.
Mm-hmm. Why did you choose to do that with that particular guy?
Well, like I said, I've done that with 3 men in my life.
So you're very selective. So why that guy? Like, what was it about him that made you think?
I don't know. Maybe I thought I was a bitch. Like I am being too picky and I'm looking at other people as, assholes. That wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. Like, no, this guy was and is an asshole. He's not an asshole to everyone. Abusers, they don't go out there and abuse everyone that they meet. They pick their victims. People who have this kind of mind, like, the harming and narcissist and toxic mindset, they know who they can fuck with and who they can't fuck with. Mm-hmm. And he knew. And my instincts told me, because he was after me for 9 months. And I said eventually, I was like, maybe I am being a bitch. Maybe I am alone because I'm not like open to everything.
So your gut was telling you one thing, but you convinced yourself in a way that, you know what, it's probably me.
Mm-hmm. And we started hanging out. He was ill. He hurt himself. He hurt his leg. So I started helping him running and helping him with his business.
What is it about women? I hate to put it on women, but it does seem to be this common thing among us where we see
nurturing.
We see an injured bird and we have to save it and nurse it back to life.
Well, he was a very good friend before that. Mm-hmm. So I said, he's a friend, he needs help because he's injured. So I'm going to help him. I'm in this area looking for a place anyways. I'll help him with his business. And I did. And I would like to think that I helped him become better. But for some reason, he thought I was there after his money. No, I don't. I'm able to take care of myself,
right.
So that was very demeaning as well. It's like thinking that, boy, you have nothing that you can offer me, like nothing that I cannot offer and provide for myself.
So with him, what was the first sign that maybe this isn't the guy that I think he is and maybe I should walk away? Like, were there early signs?
Yeah, his drinking. I thought we were just hanging out and he was always drinking. And I'm like, maybe he's just drinking always when we're just hanging out. But no, he was drinking. This is a guy who would down half a bottle of rum every night on his own or a bottle of rum on his own at night. If you're downing a bottle of something a day on your own, you've got issues. And I am not it.
Now, early on when you saw these signs, like the drinking.
We only lasted 4 months, so that was...
You're like, all of it was early on.
But it felt like I was with him for 40 years. You know why?
Because it was so bad?
My mother's suicide. I have been told out of the 3 relationships that I've been with my whole life, relationships with men that I acknowledge being with them, 2 out of 3 have brought up my mother's suicide, and it's like they're using it against me.
What have they said?
My ex-boyfriend, not the current ex here in Puerto Rico, but before that he lives in Australia. We were fighting. It was towards the end of our relationship kind of thing, and I smoke, it helps me with my anxiety and all that. So we were on the 16th floor apartment. That's where we had an apartment together. And I stepped outside to smoke, and he's like, you need to come inside. I don't want you to throw yourself off the balcony. And I'm like, boy, you really think I'm going to do that to you? Like, it's like, your mom did it. And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. So that was a little painful, and My aunt, who is like my mother, always says to me, it's like, you don't tell men or don't tell people where you come from. But if I'm going to set a life with someone, they have to know. What are they going to ask me, where's your mother? And I'm going to say, she's dead. And it's like, how did she die? You want me to make up what? I lost my mother to abuse, mental illness, and suicide. We're okay to show our support to Anthony Bourdain and Robin Williams and all those people, but you're not okay to show support to people that are dealing with it in your own house.
Because we'd rather other it. We'd rather say that's other people, problem, that's other houses, that's other,
So with my relationship, he brought it up saying that he thought I was going to do it. My ex here in Puerto Rico, the 4-month nightmare, basically, actually told me that my mother killed herself because of me. I was 2 years old when my mother killed herself. How can you be so hurtful to say something? And you don't know how long it's taken me to overcome. Again, that word overcome. You never overcome that. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time when I started to realize postpartum depression, after childbirth and all that, and I'm like, maybe I am the reason she did that. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be born.
Well, you are born, so you were supposed to be born.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what my purpose is. But
what do you think her death taught you?
People are not permanent. Relationships are not permanent. And I've lost so many relationships along the way with friends, close friends, that hurt, that really hurt. And people say, oh, you should let go of ego. No, that's your pride. Sometimes you have to be with your pride. If people are treating you like shit, don't let go of your ego. Put yourself on a high stool, because nobody else is going to do that. Not your father, not your mother, not your partner, not your brother. You, the way you look at yourself and the way you treat yourself is the only way you can actually move forward. Like, I thought I was going to die last year. I thought, like, oh, fuck, this is it. Like, it's the worst thing that has ever, like, just earth open up. And
after the last relationship?
Yeah, it just opened up. But no, it actually opened up so many other doors for me I cannot even imagine.
How did you get over that moment? So, this toxic relationship is happening. It ends. You feel like the walls are closing in. Things are ending. How did you get from that moment to this one?
I'm still in the process. There are a lot of things that, because we live in so much we live in an island.
A small one.
And I live very close to my ex. Very close, so I do see him every now and then. And, it just, I think my family, the ones that do talk to me and the ones that do understand me, they cheered me on. They brought me forward. It's the tribe. I had a lot of help locally here. People they knew. I isolated myself. I hardly was seen. I had lost 12 pounds. My friends, they came. I had help. People were calling me from everywhere, but I had to decide one day and saying, this is it.
What made you decide that? Like, what was that moment that kind of clicked on the light bulb and just...
I was like, why am I so miserable? Maria was 5 days before my 40th birthday. So 40th birthday was not good at all.
Imagine.
My 41st birthday, that was last year, I had just gotten out. Literally 17 days before my birthday, I was basically on the streets because of this guy. That was my 41st birthday. And I was like, I'm not going to do that shit to 42. No, it has to change. Like, I'm not. Maria was a natural disaster. I can't really control it. But this was an asshole that I can control. So what I'm going to control is I'm basically just, he's dead. Basically, he's dead. And that's all. I just imagined him being dead. And I'm like, nobody wants to be around the devil. Which he said to me, he was the devil. So I was like, you don't.
When people tell you who they are.
Yeah. So it's hard. I think it's like a lot of times you want to give people a chance. You want to change. You want to become that different person. But it's not for you. Because you think, oh, if I change this, this is going to work out. It may not work out. But you still have to do it. You cannot give up. Ending life, trying to make someone else miserable and all that is not going to make you happier. You have to figure out what is it that you... And I, again, in this relationship, my 4-month relationship, I was looking for it. We would have been an ideal story, a love story.
And we get married, walk into the sunset, and live
Two
happily ever after.
Africans meet each other in Puerto Rico. Two Muslim Africans meet each other as businesses. They're separately, and they meet each other, and we would have been a perfect love story.
I could see it on the cover now.
Right?
I would have invited you guys to do an episode. No.
But you know,
right.
But that was it. That's what I was looking at. But the realities of it was far from it.
But still trying to sort of fit into the storybook. Here's how it can end. Yeah, I'm glad that you got out of that.
Girl, me too. There were a lot of things that one door closed, and I see it now.
The wrong door closed, and then doors were able to open up.
This is my life, and I'm trying to be very open. I am open. I'm on Tinder, so.
Okay. What are you looking for on Tinder? What's your profile say?
Nothing. Oh man, I can tell you.
Can I see it? Can I see the profile?
Oh my god.
I already don't like the first picture. You know why? Because your first picture should have your face. Is this your first one?
No.
Oh, okay.
You have to slide through.
Okay, let me see. This is the first one with the glasses? Nope, you have glasses on. Your head is covered. You're beautiful, first of all. So you should... Only one of these shows your face, and it's like dark.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, the first one you have sunglasses on and something over your head. The second one, you have sunglasses and a hat on. The third one, it's dark. So we can barely see your face. The fourth one is to the side. And the fifth one, you're looking away. So, yeah, we need to see your face. It says, can I read this? Yeah. World traveler, lived in 4 continents, but now called PR home. I speak 6 languages. I can tell you how much I love that and to fuck off in 6 different languages. Oh, I think you should also write like what your heart wants.
I don't know. You know, it's like, so I am, if I do find a partner, I'm not actively looking like.
But what do you want? So if I were to tell you, I could make you a man right now. I have a man making factory in the back room. What does he need to be? What does he need to make you feel like? You never know. He might be listening.
I guess I just have to find someone who is open, like, you know, empathetic. I think empathy is very important. We're not all perfect, so he has to just look at me as, you know, there are certain things about me that are perfect. I have deficit on the ass and tidbits, but, you know. No, I just someone who is hardworking, because we both are going to work. It's not like one has to work. Someone with ethics and morals. I don't like guns, because guns has done a lot of damage personally for me as well. So for me, someone in the military is a no, because my father is in the military, and so it's just, I can't deal with that.
Do you think that some of the things in your past are still creating roadblocks in some ways?
Yeah. The way I think sometimes, I'm very firm with believing certain things and not giving, you know, I just...
Do you think that there's a way for you to get rid of some of those associations? So just now you're saying, you know, I don't like guns. A lot of people don't. I don't either. I don't like guns. So somebody in the military would automatically be disqualified or excluded because of that. Do you think that there maybe is a way, and not necessarily specifically on the gun thing, but just in general, do you think that there is a way where you could sort of disassociate some of these things from what they were or meant in your past?
I suppose, yeah. It's like when you spend time with people, intellectual, like, you know, you go past all those things. It's like when you psychologically and mentally connect with someone, you know, they're in terms of connection, a lot of times people say it's chemistry, like when you see each other. But I think it's a lot to do with the mind. Real life experiences is very important. You don't have to travel the world to have life experiences. There are things that happen to you, moments. You create you take them as moments and stuff like that. So a lot of times I have had issues with that as well. Like, you know, in that movie, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be with someone who's going to refer to movies. Like, no.
What if they also travel but love movies?
Yeah, that's, well, you know, you have to spend 9 hours in a transit somewhere at the airport and you watch shitty movies like Bad Moms or whatever. In fact, that happened to me. No, but it's like, I am open. It will come. I guess it's just patience, and it's nothing to do with trauma, or it's just relationships. This is another mentality I have. I don't know, I'm trying to unlearn it. That this being with someone forever, with one person forever, it's not real. Like it's just, we're supposed to evolve. And you know, when people say in relationships, you've changed. Of course I've changed. You don't expect me to be the 18-year-old you met 18 years ago. You know, and I would like you to change. I would like us to evolve.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
You're evolved. You can't be not change and be stagnant, and it's impossible. Things have to change. Relationships have to grow.
I do think it is possible for people to be together for a lifetime. But I think it's only possible when there's a lot of communication. A lot of work, a lot of communication every day, every minute, hour, every hour. You know what I mean? Like, I think people sort of in relationships sometimes like live their lives separate and then sort of expect it to be one. And you can't have it both ways.
No,
it's like either we're in this and we're working and we're talking and we're communicating and we're strategizing on who we want to be in this relationship, or just be single. You know what I mean? But you can't, it's hard to do both.
I would want a man, you know, that is going to make me feel like they're going to be there 100% for me, because I haven't had that from anybody.
Can you accept that though?
How?
You know what I mean? So I think, and forgive me if I'm, you know, judging on this, but it sort of sounds like you want that. And, but if you were to get it, you might almost not believe it and maybe move on from that quickly.
So I guess I have to find that man who's going to make me believe it. This is why I'm single. Still. There is no man like, I'm not, just kidding. There are some beautiful people out there, you know, and it's the thing is like, I'm open to giving someone a chance, but don't disturb my peace.
Right.
This is it. Because I haven't had a peaceful life. And I'm at peace. I just want to make sure people understand that pain is just temporary. It's there. You have to acknowledge it. You have to live it. You actually have to feel it in order to understand who you are, how much you can bear, and how much you can take. And be open. I'm trying to be open. I mean, I'm not as open. I do stereotype and judge people as well. But, you know, but
we all do.
Yeah, you know, but it's just like not in a harmful way, but it's like just be open and acknowledge your pain, acknowledge your past, because you are not going to move forward if you don't know what, where, how you got to where you are. It's okay to let go of relationship. It's okay to let go of things that you knew. It's okay to let go of the past, but you have to understand the past in order to let it go. It frees you as well. It's when you have things that you're holding on to and it's pain, when you let it go, you become so free.
Because it's a weight. It's just a weight that you're carrying around, and you can't lift up more positive things if you're carrying around this.
But it's easier said than done.
Oh, 100%.
You know, when we talked about Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
And there's something that she did in there, and I do it all the time. I have been doing it since I was a kid. Is going on the side of my bed and sleeping on the floor when I'm not happy. I get on the floor and I sleep on the floor.
Still.
Yeah. I've seen myself down on that floor a lot. And sometimes it's just things because I didn't want to let go of things. It's like once you let it go, you're on top of the bed, not on the bottom of the bed.
What advice would you give to somebody right now who's maybe on the floor and doesn't know how to get back up on the bed?
Get up, go shower. It feels like when you are going through depression and it's like the whole world is looking at you and you're a failure and, you're abandoned. People are scared of being judged. Mm-hmm. She's not well put together. It's okay if you're not well put together. There is that one person that you're going to have. There is always that one person who's going to listen to you. But you make sure that you're not ranting the same thing that you ranted yesterday, the day before, the day before, the day before. Because if you're ranting that, you want it to happen to you. Don't say, I have a problem. Say, I had a problem. And I took care of it.
So much of it is what we tell ourselves. What is next for you?
I'm concentrating on Pensar Africa right now. So I just want to, because it's another thing. It's like with race and relationships and all that, I now kind of know who I am. I was always accepted by the Afro community. I was always like the half-caste kids, but they never made me feel otherwise, that I didn't belong. And I felt that growing up as an Indian, that I didn't belong. Mm-hmm. They made it clear to me sometimes that I didn't belong. So I work most of the time, 96% of the time, I work with Afro diaspora and Afro people to create things, to create the positive things in life. Like when you're around with all the trauma and war and rape and suicide and mental illness and the internet and all that, when you're sitting there and creating things with people, art, you're just disconnected with everything else because you're just creating. I'm healing myself, but at the same time I'm creating things and creating. So everything that I do sell is traceable directly to the people who make it. And it's not only artists, but it's also small-scale businesses within 4 countries in Africa. República Dominicana, I'm hoping to do something, and I'm starting here in Puerto Rico.
So where can people reach you?
I have my personal Instagram, which is not private. It's Fatima Songolo. And I have my social enterprise, which is Pensar Africa, PENSAR Africa. It's on Instagram, Facebook.
Is there a website where people can buy stuff?
PensarAfrica.com. And I don't know, we can change things one thing at a time. And I want people to be conscious about what they're buying as well. So on a last note, you're trying to be all happy and everything, but then the other people's happiness depends on you as well. So buying things for $2.99, a cotton shirt for $2.99, please do think about who picked that cotton, who made that into a cotton fabric, who stitched it, who shipped it, who packed it, and why is it $2.99? Mm-hmm. So, you can find happiness in dating, relationship, and love, but if you're not a good human to have that kind of conscience, it's nothing's going to change. We're going to repeat the same things over and over. So consciousness, emotionally, physically, mentally, environmentally, is what we all should work towards.
Mm-hmm. In every way.
In every way.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. I'm looking forward to reading that book.
It's coming. I mean, a few people have to die before, otherwise I'm going to get lawsuits and all that.
Write it anonymously.
Right?
No. And thank you guys so much for listening today. Please reach out to me at Tanisha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and let me know what you think of today's show. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.